This past Monday marked the anniversary of the passing of Richie Evans. And our friend Bonesy made a post on Facebook recalling Richie's 9 national championships and evoking memories of, in his words, a massive talent. I grew up on pavement, so there were only a handful of dirt names that I knew as a kid. But one of them was Kenny Tremont Jr. He won everywhere, every weekend, forever. And it was at the top level of modified against Jack Johnson, C.D. Colville. I could go on and on. When I finally started following dirt, he was the first guy that I started paying attention to. Raise your hands in this room. I know there's a lot of asphalt people, but how many of you have seen Kenny Tremont wheel park? And you'll agree, he is a massive talent. It's the kind of talent that has earned him 53 championships and 392 and counting feature wins over a 44-year career. Because this is the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame, though, and because his mail arrives in New York State, we have to ignore 300 of those wins today, and 39 of those championships, because they happened at Lebanon Valley, or Albany, Saratoga, or Volusia, or up in Quebec, or anywhere else. It's the Syracuse Mile as well. But that still leaves 92 wins and 14 championships that I can talk about today. Accolades certainly worthy of induction into this great fraternity. You all know in this room what the number 61 means, right? You all know what DPW orange is, right? 115, red, white, and black. Iconic. It can only mean one thing. It's Kenny. I have so many fond memories of that 115, week after endless week, charging from 18th or 21st through the field and taking the win. Maybe sometimes by halfway he was leading. Maybe it was the last corner of the last lap. But it happened all the time. It happened on dirt, it happened on asphalt, it happened in big blocks, in small blocks, in sportsman cars. It happened so regularly that I had to scratch my head every week to figure out a new headline, because that got pretty tough to say Tremont wins again. But I must stress that it was never boring. Kenny Tremont can drive a car. Oh man, can he ever. But what's more, he simply outbrains them. He reads the field, he studies the track surface, he makes his adjustments, he plans his moves, he goes where they aim. And by the end of it, he's bringing them all to school. Small wonder then that he is a real-life college professor. That most recent New England win, that 92nd win that counts today, happened about 8 weeks ago on Labor Day, and it just might be my favorite Kenny Tremont win of all, and I think it might be one of his too. It happened at my favorite place on earth, Devil's Bowl Speedway. And the track was hosting the annual Vermont 200. It's the richest race in the world for dirt, sports, and modified cars, paying $10,000 to win, $325 to start, and about $7,000 in lap leader money. It's the race that off all the promoters who pay $400 to win in the sportsman every week. There were 87 cars in the pits trying to qualify that day, which means that yet again it was the biggest race in New England. And one of those 87 cars had a familiar driver with Mr. Tremont, but the car was not the 115 that we were all used to. It was instead a jet black car with a bright orange 24 on the door. It was the only car built by Pete Chukta in the PMC garage that had qualified for the field. And it wasn't new. In fact, it hadn't raced at all in 2022. What's more, it was the only car running on the antiquated torsion bars, as all those other 86 cars were on the newfangled coilover stuff. Chasing their tails, I might add. The story writes itself, right? He started 20th, he read the field, he stayed away from the drama up front, and for most of the night, he wasn't even a contender, because that was the plan. Let them all use up the coilover stuff, outbrain them. And it worked. After riding and studying for 175 laps, he took the opening that he knew was coming, and with 25 to go, he drove that old bar car away to the win. Richie Evans was a 9-time national champion, but as Bonesy reminded us, he was also a 9-time most popular driver. Most dominant drivers get booed after a while, but Richie was a man of the people. Same goes for Kenny Tremont Jr. That Vermont 200 win was his 90th at Devil's Bowl, number 1 all time, and not even within reach of second place. He has won 10 track championships, 10 of them at Devil's Bowl Speedway alone. Yet when he climbed out of John St. Germain's car in Victory Lane, the only thing that he heard was a chorus of cheers and adulation. I may not have known Richie Evans, but I do know Ken Tremont Jr. Like Richie, he is a class act. A driver who has time for every kid, every adult, every fan. He is a driver who a promoter can call upon to make a public appearance at a moment's notice, and he'll do it because he knows that it's good for the sport. He is a driver who will get behind a rule change because it helps the little guy, even if it slows his own program down. He might not brag about it openly either, but I can tell you that he's also a bit of a nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. He likes records. He likes Hall of Fame ceremonies. He likes getting together and swapping stories. I almost said shooting. He's excited about the history of this sport. He knows how many wins Richie had. He knows how many wins Teddy had, and Bugsy, and Bobby Dragon, and Noki Fenoro, and Bentley. And I'm sure he knows how many wins Brett Hearn has, too. But he's excited that his records stack up against theirs. And I've talked about him with this stuff. I know that he feels the history, and I know that today means a lot to him. He's a little bit shy about it, about honoring himself, but I know that he is very proud to be in this room today, and he and his family should be. Today does mean a great deal to him. It means a great deal to me, and he has earned this honor as a Hall of Famer beside his father, Ken Sr., who we put in a few years ago. A first ballot slam dunk in his first year of eligibility at age 60 is my great privilege to induct into the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame the West Sand Lake Slingshot, Kenny Tremont Jr.
Justin, I don't know if I was ever that good. You gave me quite a reputation to live up to, but thank you.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
But I appreciate Near and all of the committee for nominating me and then eventually electing me to this. I think of all the people that are in this Hall of Fame, especially guys like Eddie Klemke, Bugsy Stevens. I mean, I can't even believe I'm even in the same club, but it's really pretty neat, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. So getting ready to do this, and I was thinking, boy, I gotta come up with a speech that sounds somewhat intelligent. So I went to my good friend Google and figured out maybe they can help me organize this speech. And I read a little story on a person, Joe Torre, New York Yankees. And he was saying in there when he got ready to do his Hall of Fame speech, it was all about the people. So the same thing goes for me too. It was all about the people throughout my whole career. So I just got a few key people. I won't keep you for a half hour or anything, but throughout my whole life, my whole career, that stuck out. So number one would be my grandparents, Ken and Dorothy Tremont. And I'll give you a little story. They had a lumberyard hardware store. And they used to let me use their haul truck to go to Devil's Bowl Speedway back in the late 70s. So this was a fairly new lumber truck, flatbed, that they used to let me use. I was 17 at the time. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but they let me take this truck. And we'd go all the way to Devil's Bowl. I didn't have any ramps to unload it. Thankfully, Devil's Bowl had the ramp in the back that's gone now. So we used to back up there, me and a couple of my high school buddies, unload the car, race the car, load it back up, and then, obviously go home after that. Thinking about this, we come home, and we had a load ramp in my grandparents' front yard. So 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we'd be backing up to the loading dock. And my grandparents had a 1953 Golden Jubilee tractor. I would fire the tractor up, back up to the car, pull it off with a chain. All in my grandparents' yard. I know I had to wake them up because the house is right there. But being 17, never thought much of it. So then, as I got older and had my own kids, I got thinking to myself, would I let my 17-year-old kid do that? And the answer would be no. So I got to thank my grandparents, and they must have trusted me. But that was one of the first big shots in the arm that would help me, actually go to Devil's Bowl and Lebanon Valley. Also need to thank my sister Kim, who's been, obviously with us, all these years too as well, doing all the bookwork, keeping track of, entry fees, paying bills. She would be the person that would come to me and say, did you buy $3,000 worth of tires? And I'd say, yeah. Well, I don't know how we're going to pay for this. And I said, well, we'll figure it out. But thankfully for Kim, she's been through there through thick and thin, taking care of t-shirt sales and trying to pay the bills and just keep everything from getting too far out of hand. Also my family too, my kids, Ryan, Mason, his wife Joanna, Kenny, Kale, Montgomery, Samantha, they've been through thick and thin, and they still enjoy the races and going to the races, so I'm appreciative of that, and they're supportive. Also, my wife Kathy, who again, puts up with all the late hours. Are we going to have dinner? Aren't we going to have dinner? We had a nice argument on the way over about her navigational skills, and she told me where to stick my phone. And it was like a 5-minute argument. We got over it just like we always do. But I appreciate everything. She's still drinking the Kool-Aid, still loves me for some strange reason. But thanks for hanging in there. I appreciate that. And probably the number one person is my dad. Through all the, he's had a race car since like about 1961, starting at Lebanon Valley. And he always seems to be the common guiding, overseer of everything, doesn't let anything get too far out of hand. So I appreciate him. I mean, there's been many times when I thought, maybe this racing game is too tough, it takes too much work, too much money, too much time. He would be the guy that would calm everything down and be the guy that would keep the organization going. I know I personally, if I was alone, I would have quit without his help. I always think, sometimes I get a chance to watch that Yankee center stage with Michael Kay, and at the end of the interview with the sports star, he always says, to the person that he's interviewing, if you were stuck in a foxhole, who would you want to be in there with you? And my answer would be my dad. So maybe Clint Eastwood too, that would help. So thanks to my family, obviously. And I just wanted to mention, a couple of the key sponsors that I've had through the years, and they always seem to come along right at the right time when we're down on our luck and maybe one sponsor is leaving. And it always seemed to work out through the years, but my Uncle Dennis Tremont Sr. Had a construction company that helped me out when I was first starting. Wonderlic Sand and Gravel, Matson Overhead Doors, Fane Concrete, Reifenberg Construction were kind of the major sponsors that helped us out through the years. My good friend Brian Bedell, who was also a little bit of a nerd, he loves the history. He had a speed shop, Boomer's Performance, so he was a help through the years, and we're always comparing stats, and if you think I like stats, he's the guy for that. And then also, too, again, it's all about the people. I had a lot of help through the years. I mean, a tremendous lot of help. I can remember people when I was a kid, and we had the race car in the cellar, and I'll tell you one quick story. You bent the frame one night, and I was just a kid. I wasn't a part of the crew fixing anything. And me and my two sisters were watching TV upstairs, and then all of a sudden I could feel the floor where we're sitting watching TV move, and the TV moving to the side, and my mother running downstairs, Ken, what's the matter? Well, they were straightening the frame out, but they braced the frame against the floorboard of the house, and it took the house a little bit out of level, not bad. So, a lot of stories like that too as well. But a couple key people, and people have come and gone. They've worked with us for 10 years, going away for 10, come back another 10, raised families. I mean, it's amazing. We could write a whole book on the people that have helped us through the years. But Gene Rescott would be a guy that was, a real spark plug, a lot of energy, did a lot of work for us through the years. Ray Deemer, Mike Sullivan, Lance Harding, Scott Foster, a lot of guys, through the years. And there's probably been 50 to 100 people through the shop. So without all those people, without my family, obviously, I wouldn't be here tonight. And I would like to say, just in closing, that if you've never been to Devil's Bowl, you've got to take a minute to go there. Mike, you're in the back there, maybe just wave. But Mike has done a great job with Devil's Bowl. He's put a lot of money in it and a lot of effort, and him and his wife Elaine are doing a great job. I just wanted to recognize Mike and say, I really appreciate, I've gone to Devil's Bowl since probably as a kid, in the mid-1960s. It opened 67, so I'm sure I was there with my mother sitting in the grandstands at one point. But you're doing a good job. Keep it up. Justin has worked with Mike through the years quite a bit, and has done a good job too as well. So thanks to Nir, and I really appreciate this. This is one of my, my highlights through the years. Thank you very much.